and then give me 5 seconds or whatever, and we'll read us in and blah 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 blah. We'll do all the blah things. All right. All right, welcome back, gamers of all ages. It is episode 2 of the On the Button podcast. Yes, we actually are doing this again. Apparently, some of you really enjoyed the first one, so we figured, why not? Let's just keep on chugging, right? So here we are. How's it going, fellas?
It's going great. As long as you keep paying us exactly what you're paying us, we'll come back.
I will continue to put your checks in the mail. I will continue to put your checks in the mail. Yep.
If Trey's getting paid, I want to get paid.
You are both receiving the exact same salary. I just want you to know. I have cleared all of that with HR. You're good to go. You're good to go.
Nice.
Well, guys, it's been a couple of weeks. We've got a little bit now of JTL under our belts, some open play. I know Trey did some draft. We'll talk about that later in the podcast. But the entire unlimited world is a Twitter based on the results of last weekend's big events. One in Italy, the very first Sector Qualifier in the game, held in Milan. And then, of course, here stateside, we had the giant weekend-long Battle in Seattle put on by the guys over at Bothan Network, a bunch of cash prize tournaments, a really cool team event. I don't know if you guys got to watch any of the coverage or see those games, but there was a lot of really, really fun unlimited played in both of those events.
That sounds really interesting. So I'm interested. I saw Bothan something ATL, but I don't know what that is.
The Bothan Invitational, basically, is what they called it. The Bothan Invitational.
So, like, what is that? Are those guys just like out of Atlanta? Is that like is it a larger thing under Cascade, or something similar to what Cascade does, where they run a thing? It's just some dudes.
Purely community run. If memory serves, if you watched any of the coverage that I did in Mobile, we had a player on repeatedly over the course of the day, Frank. Frank and his wife Courtney actually played against each other in the top 8 in the Mobile PQ. Him playing Green Sabine, her playing Blonde Sabine. Her YouTube channel is actually called Blonde Sabine. Correct. And the two of them got together, I think maybe with some other parts of that community, and created this community tournament. I think they announced it back in January. And put up some cash prizes. They planned out this whole team event, which is the first time that's basically they created their own format for a 3v3 team event in Unlimited. Not Twin Suns. Everybody's playing the opponent across from them, but how the team performs in that round matters more than necessarily the individual game, which was really cool.
So it was like best of 3, best of 3s. So you play best of 3 across from pressure you, and then whichever team wants to do those?
I think you only play the player across from you once, and the goal is for the team to try to win and advance, right? And so they were giving away a lot of cash prizes. They ran a big 6K event on Saturday. Actually, they ran 2 different pools. They ran 2 different Swiss pools to feed into a final a top 16 bracket that they played out late on Saturday for a $6,000 prize. And then they ran 2 separate 2K event. They ran a 2K event on Sunday, like a I won't say consolation, but like a, hey, if you're not playing anything else, we've got this event. And then the team,
you suck too much to make the real event. We'll throw you a bone.
More like if you're out of these other ones, we want to keep you here and keep you playing. So here's another event.
Yeah.
And then I think the team event was a 2K prize as well. It was $10,000 all in terms of cash prize.
Where does this money come from?
Where does this? You're asking the wrong guy.
Did somebody rob a bank, or is this like
I saw Blonde Sabine did an interview with Woo.
Yes.
About the tournament, and it's just she got sponsors. It's just kind of that simple. She got some sponsors, and I guess one of them was an individual too. So
could be
like she's got some good sponsors to run a tournament, which is awesome. Yes, I think that's great.
Cool.
The venue that they played at in Atlanta is not far from the Braves Stadium, just south of Marietta, near the Battery. And it's a place called Cards HQ. If you get some time, you need to go check that place out. It is a very, very, very cool venue. Those guys took really good care of the events. They live streamed. They had at least 2 live streams running the entire weekend.
That's cool.
Sabine covered, I believe, the team event. and then McClunky Gaming came down and covered a lot of the other stuff. So they had 2 streams running almost the entire weekend. Just fabulous coverage. Really, really great to see. Awesome looking event. But to get back to the earlier point, right? Especially when you look at the team event, it's kind of a unique event. So you can take that separately a little bit. But like when you look at all of the players that they had that played in the traditional, Premier Constructed, very, very different deck results out of Atlanta versus what we saw out of Milan, which basically was essentially the Jango show, right? Like you get to, what was it? It was 50, at one point it was like 54 out of the top 70 decks in the field were Jango or something like this. And then
of the top 8.
I know it was 7 of the top 8.
That's the crazy part.
I know it was 7 of the top 8.
So it started off day 1. It was like right around 25% of the field. And then day 2 was a little over 50%. And then top 8 was 87%.
87%, right. And the other thing is that, again, Jango, there was of the top 16 in Atlanta, 6 of them were Jango. So again, a solid portion of the field, but they weren't all on Tarkentown. When you look at the Milan results, it's Jango Tarkentown, every single one. When you look at Atlanta, some of those Jangos are on 30-point bases. And I saw it. I watched at least one game where somebody was playing Jango Thermal Oscillator. Now that deck did not make it to the top 16, but my point is that there seemed to be a much wider variety of Jango style builds in Atlanta than we saw in Italy.
All right. So having watched that coverage, is it that the people who play in Europe are unimaginative and they can only come up with the top players only play Jango, whereas the American players who went to Atlanta, the top players came up with something else that could beat Jango? Or like, what do you, as somebody that looked at all of them, have watched the decks go, like, what do you think is the reason that the results were so disparate? Was Atlanta a more casual thing that didn't have all the top players? They were getting ready for Denver. I don't know.
Ian, if you have thoughts on this one, I want to hear yours first, because we're getting ready to go to Denver, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But I want to hear what you have to think, your thoughts before I share mine.
I didn't catch much of the matches because I work on the weekends, but I did sneak in some matches. It was a lot of what I did catch, which was Jango was a lot of the same.
Okay,
it's with the War Juggernaut. It's a great combo right now, and it plays excessively well with Tarkentown because it clears the board early. And it just gives you board dominance going forward. So, I mean, it's a great combo, but you've got to think about ways to stop it at this point. So if I'm going into Denver, I'm thinking of ways to stop it.
Sure. I think that, I mean, the games that I watched, the interviews that I watched, and I did not watch all of it. There's hours and hours and hours of coverage.
Yeah.
I will not pretend that I've seen all of it. I've seen a little bit of it. But the people the coverage that I've watched, the folks that I've heard talking about it in Discords like the KTOD Discord or the Bothan Network Discord have all basically said that everybody knew going in you had to have a plan to how you were going to beat Jango. You had to have a plan for that matchup. And we did see players on, for example, CAD, like we saw some CAD Tarkentown, right, come in and win those Jango matchups. Apparently, this is going to sound like I'm being, super regional or meaner than I mean to be or whatever, but it just feels like the folks that we saw in Atlanta seem to either have more luck or put more time into thinking through and coming up with some ways to combat that matchup in certain decks. Now, obviously, there was still a lot of Jango in the field. It still performed very well. Not everybody's plan worked. And sometimes, and I think for my money, this is why the Jango builds that we're seeing right now feel so oppressive, is that there are times it almost doesn't matter what you draw. When you're top decking and just literally any single card that you draw is just like, oh, that's perfect. I can use that to win the game. And it feels like there are so many like golden BBs in that Jango build right now between IG 2000, War Juggernaut, TDR, what's the other?
Which goes and finds all the other ones.
Exactly. There was another vehicle that came out, another red vehicle that came out in this set that I'm blanking on that functions very similar in terms of handing out pings and being really effective. So it's like before in Twilight, Jango was a strong deck, right? But there was only a very limited number of units that had that I throw damage on the board ability that he could take advantage of. And then suddenly in this set, it just vomited more of them out, and every single one of them can be fished out with Triple Dark Raid. And it's like, oh my God, you got to be killing me, right? Like, this is insane.
So I will tell you what I think. I don't know. I asked the question: is it people in Atlanta just better at dealing with Django? Couldn't tell you. But what I will tell you, I think that the people in what is it, Rosemont and up in Fantasy Flight are rocking in a corner with their fingers crossed, watching Denver, going, "Oh God, please not again! Please solve this! Don't do this!" Because if they release a set and it immediately, if it's another 25%, 50%, 7 out of 8, then bad things are ahead for the people that designed this game.
Well, I expect, I mean, Wes and I are going to be there. We're going to get it hands-on right there. And I expect to see people showcase chasing for sure. At least I would, right? Because you finish top 64 and you have the best leader in that field, you get a showcase. So, I mean, I would do some showcase chasing. That's just my personal opinion.
So, I mean, but if 75% of the people show up to showcase chase, that's exactly what happened in Milan. Is 75% of the people showed up to something else, and then Jango just told them
just got run over,
and Jango just ran him over.
And that might be a thing that contributes to the Jango dominance. Is if you show up with a suboptimal deck that's where you're chasing that showcase, you showed up with something that probably doesn't have good game into Jango. It's the best you can do with Darth Vader or
whatever,
Lando, or can I make top 8 with top 64 with Hondo? And then because I'm going to be the only one playing Hondo.
I mean, it's a good point.
Now,
it's a great point.
One of the things that I'm really looking forward to, I don't want to segue to the coverage just yet, Ian, but I do want to hit this. I think you make a good point. I think both of you make a really good point. Looking, and I think one of the reasons you might be seeing different results out of Atlanta is expressly because it doesn't have this showcase chasing component to it, right? Denver will. Denver absolutely will. It's the first sector qualifier here in the States. Will you see people showing up with the deck that they want to play in the hopes that they can finish in the top 64 of a field that at the moment is a little over 400 players, right? So you have to finish in, what is that, about the top 15%, with whatever leader that you bring, whatever deck that you bring. Can you pull it off to win that showcase? And I think the other question you have to be asking yourself is, what leaders are capable of doing that into a field full of at least 25% Jangos? There's no way that the percentage of the field from Milan is going to go down, in my opinion. I think it might even tick up a few points. We might even see 30% in Denver. It wouldn't shock me.
It wouldn't shock me. The way that traditionally this goes in games is you have Jango isn't going to be able to beat every single thing. There's going to be some class, probably control decks that do this. It's a little early in a metagame for a control decks to take over, but Jango is inherently a mid-range deck that can oppressively shut down other mid-range decks as well as quick aggro decks. Yeah. So I would suspect that there will be a rise of people trying to the thing about a metagame is you start with aggro. Usually it starts with aggro decks, and then you have like what's called a rock paper scissors, where you have aggressive beats control beats mid-range, and mid-range beats aggressive, because it's a little bit bigger and can stop them before it kills you. And so Jango is this mid-range deck that's not the fastest deck, but all of its stuff sticks around when it fights the fastest deck that's made up of little small dudes. So normally at the beginning, aggressive is the best thing, because you have all these different ways to ask questions of, I'm going to kill you, can you stop me? And the control decks have to be like, yes, I'm going to stop you. But if your aggressive deck asks a question of how you're going to stop me in a way that the control deck is not prepared to answer, then the aggressive deck wins. And then as the metagame goes forward and the aggressive decks start to consolidate into, this is how they ask that question of, how are you going to stop me from killing you? Now the control decks start to be able to hone in and say, this is how, I see all the questions that you ask me are in this narrow range now, and I know how to answer those with control cards. So that's why control decks usually work later in them. If we go into the second weekend of this and control decks are already stepped up, because that's what it takes to beat a Jango deck, which is a mid-range deck, that would be really fast. So I would suspect that we're going to see a lot of control decks if you're
right,
because you don't normally,
there.
If you don't want to beat, if you want to do well in a tournament, you don't necessarily bring the best deck. You bring the deck that beats the best deck, because everybody's going to be playing the best deck, and then you feast on those and hope not to lose to some crappy deck.
I think if you go vigilance, cunning, villainy, you could drag out a game and drag out draws against Jango and beat a lot of other decks. Because if you're just playing No Good to Me Dead, just all those control that Cunning has, and then on top of that, all the removal, I think you have a slight chance. I mean, that's my first thought to beat Jango.
I watched some of the Sunday Atlanta coverage on McClunky Gaming's channel while I was sitting down in the studio working on Stream Deck stuff. I think after Anthony and I streamed, it was either before, it might have been before he showed up. I don't remember. Sometime on Sunday. And one of the decks that I watched, guy had gone back, exactly what you're talking about, Ian. He had gone back, original Thrawn, Vigilance, and was literally playing to stall and mill. So he's running.
Oh, nice.
Yes, and almost all of his matches were going to time, but at the time,
throw a couple
he had restock in the deck. He had
throw a couple of restocks in there.
He had, I don't know if he had Foresight, which is a really, really good card with Thrawn, but I don't know if he was playing it. I don't remember seeing it. But anyway, he was winning matches, right? Or performing well enough that last I saw him, he was at least 3-0 or 3-1, something like this. And I thought, that's a really interesting adaptation to the meta. Is it good enough to win a big event like Denver? I don't know, but I'd be fascinated to see somebody bring it. And, Trey, one of the things that I wanted to mention, you talked about, as we get later in a life cycle of a new influx of cards in the game, aggro starts high, and then usually control slowly kind of catches up and brings, reins aggro in a little bit, and everything sort of finds an equilibrium. Do you feel like we hit that in Twilight? Because I never felt like control decks in Twilight of the Republic were ever a thing.
I don't think Twilight of the Republic actually had any sort of metagame. I feel like Twilight, honestly, I think Twilight was a very poorly received set.
I agree.
I think it was overprinted. The cards were driven down in value, and people just didn't really like the mechanics. And so I don't think there were very many tournaments that happened, like big style tournaments that happened that showed up. So I don't know how much evolution the metagame can go through when people just don't play the cards.
They aren't interested in the cards you just printed. That's a fair point, actually.
Yeah, I'm not really interested in that, what you just did.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah, the two keywords added there, the coordinate and exploit.
They Nobody used them.
And they don't carry to the other sets at all. Yeah. Like I thought when I was playing
we did that. We talked about that last time.
We talked about that last time. And we're gonna come back to this too, right? Because we've got more stuff to talk about. Okay, so having all of this broader conversation around Jango, we know that FHE has released their upcoming stream schedule for the month of April. We know that Wednesday of next week, as we record this, literally 1 week from tonight, we'll have already seen that stream, and they're going to make some kind of it's a competitive balance stream. Historically, this is when they come in and they make the kinds of announcements like when they put Boba on the suspended list. So the obvious question on everybody's mind is, does Jango survive this round? Does everything survive the round? Do they just take their hands off and say, nope, we're going to leave it all alone? Are there any cards? So what is Ian, I'm going to start with you. Do you think Jango the leader ends up on this list? And so that's just one question. The other thing is, do you think there are any other cards, either other leaders or other cards in the meta right now that might end up on the naughty list as of next week?
Well, I know everybody's calling for Triple Dark Raid. Mm-hmm. Everybody's getting really sick of that amazing card. And it's been great since it's printed.
Yes.
So, and then a lot of people are having a problem with Tarkin Town now too. And it's in just about every aggro build, to be honest. But I don't think those help your meta. I think its leaders is really the only thing right now that you can ban, in my personal opinion, that will have any real effect.
Okay. Trey, what are your thoughts on those two questions?
Well, my thoughts on those questions is that Fantasy Flight doesn't know what they're going to do yet.
I agree that they don't.
I don't think they have any idea what they're going to do. I think they're going to look
waiting
and see what happens. They scheduled it a week out because they went, oh crap, after Milan, and they had to get it scheduled. They had to get it on the books to do it after Denver. But now they're sitting on their hands and going, players, please save us, so that when we have this competitive thing, we can be like, whoo, we thought it was going to be a problem, but look, you guys solved it, so it's not that big a deal. Whether they're actually going to do anything,
let me phrase the question a different way. Based on what you know today, if you had to make a decision today, based on what you've seen and what you know, what would you do to Jango and or other cards in the meta?
I would have to operate within the constrictions of what they've already given themselves.
Agreed.
So they've already given their justifications. So we've played Fantasy Flight games before where they'll just go change the wordings on cards. And since after they banned timed out whatever they did to Boba, made Boba go away, they gave their reasoning why that's what they're doing. Like we had in Destiny, where we came from, they would do errata, they would change the words on cards. They released no lists where you couldn't play this card with this card, but they're not banned. You can play this card, just not with this other card. Yeah. So there are a couple of other ways. I don't think they've addressed that one yet. But they seem to have said we're not going to change the wording on cars. So going exclusively by just getting banned, I think if they just ban if they just ban Jango, it's not far enough. So if I only have to go from this last week's, I think the only reason Jango is the one that's the oppressive is that if you look at all of the yellow black leaders, he's the best one right now.
Oh yeah,
I think he is the best one. For sure. But if you ban him, there will just be whatever the next best one is.
Cad Bane.
Cad Bane, probably Cad Bane.
Cad is probably the obvious choice.
So he would take over, and I think that just the yellow red cards are just so good and like you were just saying a minute ago.
They're so synergized.
Yes. You draw 2 cards off the top, and it doesn't matter what you drew. You drew what you need.
They're helpful.
Your 50 card deck made of 3 of everything. Everything is going to propel you to win the game. Yes. So if you ban Jango, and now it becomes Cad Bane, okay, it might go from 7 out of the top 8 to 5 out of the top 8. And is that really any better? Is that good enough? So I think Jango is far too powerful, but he's just the best version of yellow red that you can play right now, and yellow red is just too good compared to the rest of them. Just judging by Milan, like from what they're actually going to do, they're going to wait and pray to all of the players to save their butts and solve something to stop this monstrosity of yellow red Jango.
So yeah, I guess my question would be is just based on their wording that when they banned Boba that he was eating up too much of the top 8s. If we see Jango take, let's say, 6 of the top 8 spots.
Oh, he's gone. He's immediately gone.
Yeah. You think
Wednesday?
Gone?
I think Wednesday.
Wednesday is no Boba.
Wednesday is
no Boba.
Jango
and then it just
son.
becomes.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, then it just becomes the rise of Cad Bane.
Right. So that may not just be Boba. It depends on what the determination they make. Is it? I mean, not Boba. Jango. Good God. One of the weird helmet guys.
Helmet guys.
So if they really want, if it's 6 or 7 of the top 8 in Denver, I think they have to smash the whole thing. I think they have to smash it apart, and not just Jango. Yeah. I think they have to hit Tarkentown, Jango, and Triple Dark Raid, and then just set the meta game on fire.
Yeah,
I love Triple Dark Raid.
I'll tell you straight up.
Yeah, because it's amazing.
I think personally, I think even if Jango is tamed this weekend, I think you have to hit TDR. Because, I mean, as good a card as that is, it is absolutely ridiculous. The easiest comparison that I can make, go pull Sneak Attack out of your binder and put it next to Triple Dark Raid and tell me why Triple Dark Raid is like 6 times better than Sneak Attack is. Like, what in the...
So, talking about the top 8s, Jango was 7 out of 8 possible plays. Triple Dark Raid was 24 out of 24 possible plays
100%.
in the top 8.
100%.
So
that's my point.
Yes.
So I think even if the players themselves solve, and I'll use the air quotes intentionally here, solve the meta and push Jango aside, I still think you have to hit TDR. I think you have to hit TDR, and I think one of the reasons you have to hit it is because even if you shove Jango aside, the new Boba Fett with yellow, with indirect damage, with Fett's Fire Spray and old Fire Spray and TDR and all the other shenanigans is lurking in the wings, just waiting to swoop in on the back of free vehicles, right? That I can play multiple times.
If the players solve, and again, air quotes, solve the metagame,
right?
And Jango is only 2 of the top 8, but 5 more of the top 8 are yellow, and they all have Triple Dark Raid, then next Wednesday becomes we have to smash this archetype.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so
that would make me sad.
It would make me sad to some extent. I like Tarkentown. They're decks that I've used it in for a very long time. Before it was a big deal, back when everybody thought ECL was the bee's knees. I still have always liked Tarkentown. I would be sad to see it go. I don't think you take Tarkentown out. I don't think there's a need for it, but we'll move on. I think it's gonna be an interesting weekend and up to Wednesday for sure. Now we've alluded to this, of course. Speaking of Denver, Ian, you and I are going to be flying up there Friday with all of my friggin' gear. We're going up there. We're going to set up Friday and 2 full days of coverage. You and I are going to cover all 9 rounds of Swiss live on my YouTube, Twitch, and X on Saturday. And then Sunday, we're back to cover however many more rounds of Swiss we need, plus the top 8 and the top 4. I was able to confirm today with the late night gaming guys. They're comfortable with us coming in, and they're going to cover the finals, which is totally cool. But we're going to be able to cover at least some of the playoffs, some of the top cut, and then we'll send our viewers over there for the finals later on Sunday. So lots of good stuff.
If the late night gaming folks' equipment were to meet with some sort of unfortunate accident, would you guys be able to cover the?
I'm not saying
out of that.
nothing.
I'm staying out of that. Loopy has been super awesome. We've had all kinds of great conversations. And yeah, so I don't even want to insinuate that sort of thing would occur, because that's not okay. But yeah, it's going to be a good time. So guys, if you're listening on YouTube, I'll put the links in the video description. If you're listening anywhere else, like just audio, just do a search on YouTube or Twitch for Searaptor, SEARAPTOR. You'll find my channels. Throw me a follow. And I've already got the events. The YouTube events are posted for both days, so you can even set little reminder notifications on YouTube. One of the nice things about streaming on YouTube is that you can set the stream up in advance, and folks can remind themselves, and they'll get like an email and a push notification on their phone. And we'll have all of that set up and ready to go. Saturday, we're going to start probably about 30 minutes early, do some pregame, talk through a lot of things. I'm hoping we're going to be doing some setup on Friday. I'm hoping to get in there and get some video of like the prize wall, so that we can show you guys all the kind of cool stuff that's available. The Space City guys were really awesome. Excuse me, Star City guys were really awesome today. I kind of trading messages back and forth with them. I sent them a nice thank you. I said, hey, thanks for being willing to work with us and answering all my silly questions. And they were like, no, we like being able to showcase. We like being able to show off the event to people who aren't here. And I was like, yeah, it'd be cool if we could, maybe nudge, encourage some of them to hit Richmond in a few more weeks when that event finally kicks off on the other side of the country. So yeah, if you're looking for some more tournament coverage, come check us out this weekend. Ian and I are going to be handling that. Articles. They posted a first year summary of the game on their website about a week ago. I think I remember seeing this came out. I think Tyler Parrott wrote this one, I believe. Kind of just going back through, talking through things. Is that right?
I don't know the author. But I mean, it was one person as an author, but there's a lot of interviews with people.
Okay, I'm looking at it now. There wasn't. I'm thinking of something different. Tyler had written an article about like the behind the scenes designing the set, designing Jump to Lightspeed.
That one came out right before that, yeah.
Correct. A day later, they were like, "Oh, it's been a year," and then so you've got little snippets in here from Danny Schaefer and Xander Tabler and Tyler Parrott and Jim Cartwright. So some of these guys that have been involved in the game since way back before any of us even knew it existed.
I didn't see that article. I'm gonna be honest.
Oh,
Trey, what do you think?
I looked over.
I'd love to hear about it though.
Okay, go for it.
It's just, I mean, they'll ask a question, and like the structure of the article is, they'll be like, "Hey, this thing," and then they'll give like Jim Cartwright, Danny Schaefer, Tyler Parrott, and Xander Tabler will all give their own answer. There'll be like a paragraph for each of them. It was so a couple of thoughts when I put this on our show doc. It was interesting to hear them still. You can still, or at least maybe I'm just jaded, but in the back of my mind, in the back of their words, I can hear them still saying, please play this game. We promise we'll keep it up. We promise we will keep making this game, and we won't leave everybody out in the cold. And so that was the big marketing push. When they announced the game, it was like, hey, we have this great game. We swear to God, we will put money into this game and we will support it for years and years to come. Please give it a shot. Because we promise, we've done all this work. Like, there was most of the marketing stuff was trying to convince people that have been burned by their games in the past because they just do them for 3 years and they get bored. And then, yeah, me too. I refused to play this game when they announced it. And then I played it and I was like, damn it. The
game's really good. Damn it.
I knew it would be good. It would be good because they make great games. They just get bored 3 years in. So anyway, like, they gave their answers in this article, and that's They give good answers. It was an interesting article to read, but in the back, one of the things in the background, I felt like that, like they were alluding to how much work they had put into it, how much more stuff they had planned out, how far they had to go to achieve their vision. One of the things that I really enjoyed, and I thought as a jumping back onto a topic we talked about last time, is they talked about how the first year was laying the groundwork.
Mm-hmm.
So they laid a lot of groundwork over the first year, which made me curious and wonder is does that mean like is that a mechanics thing? Is smog does that mean that so the first set is obviously the first set. It has the most basic mechanics. It has the most it's all introductory cards. They have the kill that guy spell. They have the dude that stands there named Darth Vader. Like all of the basic stuff. Nothing, no corner over this section of the universe. It's Darth Vader. It's Luke Skywalker. It's the basic cards. But then you get to the second set, and it's a little. At the time, it felt more. They've got smuggle to do the bounty hunters and whatnot. So if that's a basic laying the groundwork set, does that mean smuggle will come back? But then you get to the third set of Twilight, and then they have coordinate and whatever the other one was.
Exploit.
Thank you. I can't even remember the name. And I hope those don't come back. I please make room for better things.
Exploit is. I kind of like exploit, but there's not enough good exploit cards.
Okay, so we talked last time. I'm gonna bring it up. We talked last time, the very last episode. We were gonna have this conversation. Okay, so of the mechanics that have now been added, right? We added smuggle, bounty, exploit, coordinate, piloting. Okay, I feel like I'm missing one or two. So the stuff that's been added on top of the base game over the last 3 sets, thus far, what have you enjoyed the most that you want to see them bring back, Ian?
Oh, wow. Probably smuggle. I think that's my favorite mechanic.
Okay.
I love to do like pull out tech to pull out other cards.
Mm-hmm.
I think that tech DJ combo, when you can pull that off in the Han deck, is a lot of fun. Trey's hit me with it 3 times in a game, and it was brutal as hell. So like, just I like smuggle. I wish there was more smuggle cards for sure.
Trey, same question.
I like the smuggle stuff. I like the idea of when you put a card face down, that's not necessarily the end of that card for the whole game. So if I'd either like smuggle to come back or something else that allows you to continue to care about what resources you put down. But I think the one that I liked the most was just the bounty hunters. The bounty hunter, if that has I guess bounties is the mechanic. I thought that was cool. I thought drawing it back once again to Destiny, when they did bounties in Destiny, it didn't feel worth it.
It was a miss.
They would make you would have to spend the entire card to do something that was only okay. Yeah, and they still have a couple of instances in this game where you spend this entire card and it's only okay. But it felt like they did a much better job of, like with the Jabba the Hutt leader, which doesn't get a lot of play, but give somebody a bounty to do something, like a minor bounty to do something. That felt it felt thematic. It felt non-intrusive. Like you didn't have to build your entire deck around that sort of. You could, but you didn't have to build your entire deck around it. And so it just felt like they did bounties really well, and bounties and bounty hunters really well in this game and this time around.
I agree, and I love that you had some units that had like bounties built into them, right? You had the bounty.
That was another way to do it. Yeah,
you had the bounty card that I could play out of my hand onto your unit that I wanted to interact with in that fashion. Mm-hmm. But there were some units that just had bounties printed on them as a penalty, let's say, for the card being undercosted, usually undercosted. Like you look at like the little Ian, those little 1-cost clone deserters you were playing on Sunday, a Monday night in our games, right? Or that kind of thing. I love that mechanic. I love the bounty mechanic in this game. I think they absolutely nailed it. And I think,
especially when sorry, Wes, not to cut you off, but especially when bounty's on a unit, the risk reward sometimes. Yes. You have to make the decision. Is it worth it? Is it not? And sometimes it's totally worth it. Like with the new set with Thrawn, the double Val move.
Yes.
Right? Val exactly. You're going to, I believe her bounty is like you deal, is it 3 damage to a unit?
Deal 3 damage. The opponent gets to deal 3 damage, but if you can double her when defeated trigger, you can put all of those experience tokens out before damage comes in.
Yeah. So the bounty is, I like the bounties. They're fun. They're risk reward. I play Top Target all the time. It's one of my favorite.
Personally, my opinion is smuggle and bounty need to be permanent parts of the game. Period. End of discussion. There should be small amounts of cards in every single set that take advantage of those mechanics. That way, when you print a leader like, and I've harped on this before, Lando or Hondo, they can stay sort of relevant. Now, Lando, we can argue because he's a little weaker, but Hondo is a really, really good leader that just has not really gotten any extra oomph in a couple of sets because it feels like they've abandoned the mechanic, and I really wish they wouldn't. Now, the other one for me that I am loving so far, that I absolutely want them to hold on to, please, 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 is piloting, because there is especially the pilot units, right? When I have a card in my hand that I can play as either a ground unit or an upgrade on a vehicle, the tactical flexibility that gives me in the moment as a player is amazing, because it provides me more choices, some good, some bad, but more options, more avenues to think through. Now, sometimes that slows the game down. I get that. But as a player, I love being given options. And that's something else that Smuggle does, right? Smuggle gives you options and ways to interact with the board that aren't normal. Pilots are the same way. I absolutely love the mechanic and the way they've implemented it. I don't want that one to go away. And piloting is such an iconic Star Wars thing. Please don't take that one away. They need to keep that one.
Now, I'll say this. I listened to the new Legends of the Force, and they talked about how one of the keywords was going to be printed in other sets. So I'll save that for when we get there. But I think they're going to start printing some of these. What?
So we're kind of there now.
I mean, sure. It's a perfect segue, right? Because literally today they started spoiling stuff for Legends of the Force. There was a little leak yesterday with the YouTube video. Some screenshots went around. This morning they posted the article, and this afternoon they had the stream where they basically went through the article and then gave us a couple more little tidbits things we hadn't seen. So go ahead.
So in that stream, when he was talking about hidden, he said hidden, which is the new keyword,
yes,
is printed in sets going forward.
Okay.
He said that on the stream today.
Good.
So that gives me hope that other keywords could come back as well.
Fingers crossed. And that's one of the things, right? This new set already has at least 2 brand new mechanics. The new hidden keyword, which you're talking about basically, which means that when I play a unit, it cannot be attacked that particular round, which I like the idea of, because the game is so, for good or for bad, the game is very violent, right? Units don't stay around. Units don't stay around. It's so difficult to keep units on the board. Now, that's awesome because it creates for a very dynamic board state, and the game is constantly in a state of flux and really interesting to solve. So it's good, but it's also bad because sometimes it feels like you've spent 10 minutes getting to a point, and for God's sake, can I just get a unit to stick to the board long enough to do something with it? And hidden, at least now, seems like the answer is going to be, for certain units, yes, you can.
Yeah, like the units, the game being so violent means that which is what hidden is perfect for. One of the ways to balance these units that you play, you can make absurdly powerful units as long as you make them fragile.
Yes.
And so that they can't last very long, so they can do their thing for a while. But the way the game is structured, without hidden, you make these absurdly powerful units, and then they just die immediately. They're too fragile. There's no way to this is the way to make that fragile unit that you can get it off once.
Yes.
Well, I think, and in the keyword too, they explain that you can still target it with a spell. You just can't beat it up with a unit. But I can still open fire it.
Okay, that's true, and
that's
I'm
still
okay
allowed.
With that. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and I feel that's good.
I'm okay with that because then, things that defeat units or things that deal direct damage to units, it's still a unit.
Ambush.
Right? It's still a unit. Yeah. But it gives me the opportunity. Like, how many times do you sit there with a unit in your hand and I know if I play this to the board, it's just going to get assassinated by the 3 ready things my opponent has in that arena, right? Like some of those games you and I are playing on Monday night, Ian, right? Same idea.
That never happens to me because I just don't put those in my decks. Like the Alliance guy that makes stuff cheaper, nobody plays that card. Well, nobody until now has played that card because you play that card and people go, "Oh crap," and just pound it immediately
and just off it, right?
Cool, you lost a card you saved yourself 3 damage and lost this card.
Yeah, but I like the idea of cards that are like, to use the example, the Alliance Dispatcher out of set 1, out of Spark of Rebellion, to use your example, Trey. Imagine a world where that card had hidden printed on it. Now I know I'm paying 1 now. At a minimum, I'm going to get to use that card once. As long as I take initiative, right, in that turn,
Yep.
my first action the following turn can be to use it before my opponent slaps it off the board. So at a minimum, the worst that's going to happen is I'm investing a resource now to save a resource in the following turn. Yes, correct. But from a cost perspective, I mean, it's at least going to pay for itself.
Yeah. No, I like that. I look forward to that keyword. I think it's going to be a good one.
I do too. Now, the other mechanic that was introduced today, the force token. We're going to have another new token to manage on the board with it seems like many of the leaders and certainly all of the common bases in this set.
No. They said all the leaders in the set will have a force token capability.
That's not what they said. What they said was all of the leaders in the set have the force trait, but not all of them.
Okay.
Not all of them interact with the force token.
I thought that meant token, but okay,
no.
that sounds right.
So Trey, have you watched the stream video from today? The spoiler video?
No, I had too much stuff going on today.
Okay, no worries. So then, Ian, you and I obviously sat through this. Talk to me. What's your initial reaction to the force token mechanic and how it works and how they're using it to balance certain mechanics?
I think it looks interesting. I think having an ability to be able to do something a turn later isn't the worst thing ever, or hold on to it when you need it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if there'll be cards to remove a force token.
Ooh, I haven't thought about that. It's a good point.
And
I hope not. I honestly hope there aren't, but go ahead.
And I'm wondering how hard it's going to be to actually obtain or keep. I don't know. Until I get my hands on it, I really don't know until I get my hands on it, to be honest.
Reasonable. I like the idea of it because it gives them another tool that they can use. And they talked about this a little bit during the stream to kind of provide powerful mechanics that come with an opportunity cost, right? In the sense of you have to work to obtain this token. And then on a later action, you can expend this token for this powerful effect, whatever it is. Okay.
Yeah.
And I found that really interesting. I like the idea. I like the idea of it. The execution, I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
Can't see the set, don't know all the cards, but I like the idea of it. Part of me starts to feel like it's starting to get a little too fiddly, right? Like we got all of these things moving around the board. I got damage tokens and initiative tokens and shield tokens and experience tokens and token units welcome what?
Welcome to Fantasy Flight Games. This is how they design games. You play their board games. Their board games have a million pieces in them. They're great games.
You're not wrong.
And they use them well. Like when you play like Outer Rim, you feel like a smuggler or a bounty hunter running around the board. When you play their games, they're immersive and they feel good. But they have a million little bits in every single game.
You're not wrong. The other thing I was watching when I first heard this announcement, I was watching a video today. I thought all of the guys in this space that make third-party tokens like laser gaming and buy the same token, they all went cha-ching, more things I can make.
Oh yeah, I've already designed the Kingwood Hobbies force token.
See, there you go.
I'm printing it tonight and I'll have it on Etsy while.
There you go. Awesome. So yeah, if Legends of the Force spoiler season sort of beginning, but I think this is going to take a back seat for a little bit. We've certainly got a lot more competitive JTL to get through in the next month or so. I don't think things will really start kicking off until we get into May, probably about mid-May. I'm guessing. This is speculative. Is when they'll start doing spoilers.
I do want to talk about. Ooh, yeah, that'd be cool.
Be good.
Yeah,
that'd be good.
I do want to talk about one card though. I really like the Qui-Gon leader.
Yes,
I think that's an interesting. Like, imagine switching like with a Porg. Like, you could move any card you wanted off of the board. So I think it's an interesting thing. I don't know. We'll see.
I think it's interesting. You have the opportunity to take advantage of a when played action again, right?
Yeah.
If you can
that'll be what it's used for.
Yeah, if you can find a card that's got a really strong when played action for the deck you build around Qui-Gon, that can be really, really, really impactful. His Aether Sprite card that they spoiled as well, also another one that it's like the opposite of Chimera, right? I think it's Chimera. When you play Chimera, you can immediately trigger a when defeated ability on a unit you control. If I remember Qui-Gon's Aether Sprite, when you play that one, you can immediately trigger a when played ability on a unit you control.
On attack, you may use a when played ability
on attack.
This phase.
There you go. That's what it is. And when I read that, I immediately went, oh God, people are going to combo this with DJ, and my life is going to suck. So going back to the competitive balance ban list, I really hope DJ finds its way onto that list eventually, because I'm so tired of that mechanic. It's ridiculous. Okay, guys. So obviously JTL's been out for a while. We've all been building decks. Let's talk. Trey, I want to turn to you for a minute, because you, of the three of us, you actually drafted JTL last week. I think we all did pre-releases, so we've all done sealed, but draft is a little different. So talk to me about your first draft experience with Jump to Lightspeed. How'd that go?
So my draft was shaped pretty early on. I because of the leaders that I pulled. So the first, I don't remember what order I got them in, but basically I got Von Reg, red black. I got Rio Durant, yellow black, and I got Asajj Ventress, blue black.
Well, you're playing villain.
And then I'm playing villain and probably aggressive. And so I hadn't played Asajj very much, and I wanted to give her a spin, so I tried to go blue. By the time I got to the end of the first pack, though, I want to say I had 3 blue cards, 2 red cards, and 9 yellow cards. So I was definitely in yellow. So I'm either going to go Rio and something else, or I'm going to go and some other color, and one of those 2 colors, or I'm definitely in yellow. So then I got to my second pack, and I think I took a blue card, the shoot down, steal a dude and kill him. I think was the first card that I took.
No glory, only results.
I think that something like that. That was like a blue kill that card. And I'm like, cool, I'm in Asajj. I get rid of these things here, and then I got past a Von Reg's tie immediately in in red black.
That card is so
and I
good.
And I went, no, but I'm in red. I mean, I'm not in red. I'm in yellow and I'm in blue, and I want to play Asajj. So I took, I don't know, some big capital ship, something or other that was okay out of that pack. And then the red just flowed. And so I ended up with all the red cards. I had the 4/3, the 4/3 for 3 flying TIE fighter guy. I ended up with 4 of those. I ended up with 2 of the war jugs. I ended up with, like, I just had a crazy red, yellow, black deck. And I was just super aggressive. And I would just throw guys out. I would hit my curve. And I ended up playing Von Reg, because he's if you want to play aggressive in space, he's the guy to go with, because he comes out on turn 4? Yeah, he comes out on 4.
He comes out on 4 resources, so turn 3.
Yeah, turn 3, and you throw him on something, and you're just smashing away. And so that's what I did. I smashed my way right until the finals. I crushed, I don't remember what I played first, but I crushed somebody, and then I crushed somebody again, and then I got to the finals and played against Luke, and he was at Luke yellow. But one of the things you get in draft is he took every death space, do the 3, it's a yellow, and you play it, it's a 3/3 for 3. The death space skirmisher. And it exhausts guys.
Yes.
And so I flipped Von Reg onto something. He played that and tapped Von Reg.
Yep.
And then the next turn he took initiative and he played another one and tapped Von Reg. Like, he tapped Von Reg 3 times. He saved himself 15 damages. And I had a K turn and one in my hand. So it was gonna be over, because I was gonna hit him for 5, whatever Von Reg on was a 2/2. And then I was gonna K turn Von Reg and hit him for 5 more. And then the next turn hit him for, like, I was gonna beat him before Luke came out. And he tapped Von Reg on the guy 3 times, because he drafted every one of those death space skirmisher guys that came out. So I ended up getting second in the draft, because he then just proceeded to turn over Luke and win the game.
I'm kicking myself now, because I'm sitting here listening to you talk about this, and I'm like, haven't I drafted? I did. I was in the other draft pod that night. We only had 6.
Well, it was a week ago, so I totally understand how you don't remember a week ago.
I've slept since then. But yeah, I did end up playing draft, and I did the weird thing that you probably don't want to do. I don't recommend doing this. I played Phasma. I tried to.
Now you said that, I remember walking behind you and being like, he picked Phasma.
I did.
Why did he play Phasma?
So I think, I don't remember what my leaders were anymore. I know I remember thinking I was going to be going into hero. I know what it was. My original leader that I grabbed was Rose, because I had really good games with Rose in sealed. So I was like, Rose is really good in this set. She's really good in closed format. My 3 packs, I had 2 Roses and I think in Akbar or something. So I was like, I kept a Rose and sent the rest on. And when the guy on my left passed me his leaders, one of them was Phasma. And I was like, Sure, why not? So I kept her, and then I ended up playing Phasma as cards kept going around. Obviously, nobody's really trying to draft first order stuff, so I ended up with a lot of the straight villain units that were first order, right? The Sith troopers and the goofy tie dagger thing, and I ended up with a couple of the first order stormtroopers and some other randomness. I didn't have a very good draft. At the end, by grabbing all of the units that could legally like go with the base, I think I played Phasma green. Green?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, green. Grabbing.
You ended up with the unit Phasma, right?
I did. I ended up with at least one unit Phasma.
I saw you play that one when I was standing behind you.
That was one of the other reasons I did this, because I knew how good she was with the leader Phasma, and in the end, I think I had to throw in some just absolute garbage to just get myself up to 30 cards. But in the end, I went 2-1 with that deck. Like you, I think I tied for second in our little pod. I was surprised. She wasn't like knocked out amazing, but it wasn't a bad deck. And what I realized is you don't need to go crazy heavy on the first order stuff. And there's certainly enough good, like one of the things that I'm messing with now, and we'll kind of a segue into what we're headed next, is talk about the constructed stuff we're working on. I'm working on cooking on Phasma ECL as a constructed deck. Is it tier 1? Yeah, probably not, but it's not a bad deck. There's certainly enough red-green villain stuff that you can play the better first order units. The gooder, I know.
No, the most gooder.
The most goodest first order units that you want in the deck. And then if there's the occasional turn you accept the fact that, okay, I'm not going to be able to fire off Phasma's ability this round, life goes on, I'm still playing good cards, it's fine. But being able to ECL unit Phasma or unit Kylo onto the board with your leader Phasma flipped up is absolutely an amazing turn. And that unit Phasma being like having a couple of first order units, you ambush her in, you attack something, you hand out a couple of +2/+2s. That turn, her flip turn, that 5 resource turn when you're playing Phasma leader it feels really, really good when you're able to pull that off. I was doing that last night. I played one game and it was just monstrously good. And I was like, okay, I like the synergy of this deck. I like the synergy that they've built into the first order stuff. So that's definitely one that I'm going to keep messing with and keep trying to mess around with. Ian,
you popped that combo a lot Monday too.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. So you've seen that deck on the table too. Now, what else have you been working on, Ian? I know you brought some stuff. We streamed some games on the channel the other night. Talk to me about what you've been building.
So I played the stuff with you the other night, and I've keyed in on for this set. I'm going Piet Red.
Oh,
that's
so
where I'm going.
So good.
I'm having a really blast playing the Devastator, and then Planetary Bombardment. I win the game. It's pretty amazing and it's pretty fun. I found a couple of ways to stall it out by using I'm using to stall out. I'm using that 2/1. What is it? Scout Headhunter, the 2/1 Sentinel
the
ship.
scouting, the little scouting Headhunter in green. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm using that to draw out. I'm using the what's the trooper from set? He's a 3/3.
You're about like Cell Block Guard?
The
Phase 3. The Dark Trooper.
Yeah, Phase Dark Trooper. Yeah. So I'm using him to stall out.
Sure.
And then I'm using that new two ground unit that you can also play into a starfighter or transport to stall out.
Yeah.
Using open fire, daring raid. So basically my whole thing is just get to 4 resources.
Yep.
And then I can start bringing out some really great stuff. Absolutely. Like I can do it at 4. So it's pretty great. I'm enjoying it a lot. I took out 2 Jango decks on Tuesday with it, so I felt pretty good there.
All right.
I would encourage you. I meant to have this conversation with you on stream the other night. I'm not sure what your ship balance is. You talked about not having a whole lot of capital ships in there. You need to go through your cards and have a look at the MC30 for a 5-cost unit.
That's what I added in. I added that in.
That card is so amazing in Piet. So good.
Yeah, it's been really good.
For sure.
What's his name? Zamad told me to add it in.
Good. Good.
And I added it in, and it's playing. That's the 4/1 that I play.
Yes, that card is amazing.
Beautiful.
That card is amazing.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
So cooking on Piet Red. What else you got in the oven?
For constructed, that's it.
Okay.
That's all I'm going with.
All right. What about you, Trey?
What
have you been working on?
I built so many decks.
You play so many decks too.
Yeah, for forever. It's been like I'll like find something on YouTube or somebody posts something and I'll like, all right, I want to try that one, and then I'll build a couple of my own decks that I'm interested in. But now, like my YouTube feed is just now just a barrage of all these different creators with all these different decks. So I actually created one this time, but this is I brought 3 constructed decks last week to the draft and tried to play as many as I could before we got started on the draft, and then instantly shredded those apart like when I got home that night and built 3 completely new ones for this week. So I played the Vader Swarm deck last week, and that one was fun. That was a lot of fun. That one probably has more legs than I gave it time for.
Okay.
This week though, I brought what are the 3 decks that I brought? I found somebody that built an Asajj red deck.
Ooh.
And when I played that on Carabas, like I built it on SwootyB and then played it on Carabas, it just annihilated people all night long with it. And then showed up to play our open gaming thing and promptly just got crushed. So
Red!
Red got there, yeah. It was one of the things, and I was like, well, this deck is going back in the Grumper. No, this band is terrible. So there was another creator. I've never seen this guy before. There's a guy on YouTube named Mo the Monster. I've never seen any of his buildings. So Mo put together a Palpatine blue deck. He said, I'm going to go beat Jango. And we had the whole conversation earlier about what beats mid-range is its control. Mm-hmm. And he put together a Palpatine blue deck. And so I just built it like in his video. I can't even watch his whole video. His video is like an hour long where he explains every card choice. Depth. He is meticulous going through why he chose this card. I chose at some points he was talking about how I chose this card and then play tested it 17 times and it turned out it was 3% less efficient than this other card, and so now I played this other. It's nuts the level of detail that he went into, and I started like skipping through and I was like, I feel like you've put the time into this. I don't need to watch this whole video. But I mean, also I played a lot of Palpatine early in the game. Like I won one of our store showdowns, our first store showdown with Palpatine Green, so I know how Palpatine plays, and so I put that together. I took that. That was real good. That was dominant.
That was your out of aspect change of heart for a W.
Well, yeah, that was last summer. Yeah, that was my out of aspect change of heart for W. But this week when I took Palpatine Blue, it was a dominant deck. Like it was even it didn't matter what I played against. It was basically I would sit there. Even against Jango that's trying to like be the power of a big thing, I would just sit there and look at them staring at these angry triangles in my hand, just a fistful of Star Destroyers. While they have nothing on the board, I'm like, I want to play these cards. Please do something more that I can kill with these cards because it doesn't make it's wrong for me to just throw these cards out there. Like it's a tactically wrong decision for me to just play cards to play cards. And I'm just it's such utterly it was dominant. So I'll probably stick with that one going forward, at least as my main choice of an option. Now that assumes I'm going to play in any tournaments or anything like that. When I'm actively looking to either judge or cover tournaments with you, when I don't want to play, I want to sit here and talk because listen to my voice, my sultry sounds. They're amazing. Yeah. So the third deck that I brought was one that I actually built myself, and it was a first stab at a Poe deck. And so I tried to build a Poe deck. My thought going in was I'm gonna basically drop underneath everything. So turn 1, I'm gonna drop 1 and move Poe over. Turn 2, I'm gonna drop a 2 drop and then attack and then move Poe over. And then turn 3, I'm gonna play where I have 4 resources. I'm gonna play 3 and move Poe over. So that was my idea. It wasn't good.
Okay.
I think there are better ways. So that it really wasn't good because I played somebody that's playing the Vader Swarm deck, and it just everything that I wanted to do, Vader Swarm just did better.
Right?
They're just better at it. So I played it a couple of times because it was the one that I built, and so I wanted to test it and put my theories to work. In order to do the 1-drops, I had to pair it with yellow. So I want to play like a 1-3 and then put Poe on him and make it a 3-4 that I'm attacking with on turn 2. That seems good. And all of the good one drops in space are yellow.
Cartel
that seems
Spacer,
like
for example.
Yeah, the Wolf Hunter, whatever, the 2-1.
Yeah,
that thing. I wanted to do that, and that didn't work. So going forward, watching myself as I played, I think the better way to do that is to focus on 2-drops. And like so I play a 2-drop because 2s are so much better than 1s. So I play a 2-drop, and then on my second turn, I move Poe over and play another 2-drop, and then make that attack. I'm a little slower that way, but I think that's going to be a better way to do it. But I did actually find a card that I love this card, and it's a card I've not heard anybody talk about. It's called Tactical Heavy Bomber.
Yes.
The Tactical Heavy Bomber is a 3/5.
Yes.
And it says on attack, deal indirect damage equal to this unit's power to the defending player. So if you throw like a pilot on there or something, or you use like a surprise strike with it, it's like 12 damage out of a 5-drop.
It can be huge. Throw a surprise, throw Poe on a hit with a surprise strike, and now I'm hitting you for 7 direct or 8 direct, and then 7 and then 8 more indirect.
So like as a 5 cost 3/5, it's a little, or actually it's probably correctly powered or correctly costed, because it's basically hits for 6. It's a 6/5 that you play for 5 in space.
Mm-hmm.
Except that 3 of those are indirect. But everything that you can do to make that bigger is worth double. So if you play a pilot on it that gives it +2, that's actually +4, because you get 2 indirect and 2 damage when you punch somebody in the face with it. Yep. And so, like, I haven't seen anybody talk about this card. I haven't seen anybody play this card, but I don't know, maybe people are. But I saw it, and that was the games that I won with Poe were because I put Poe on a Tactical Heavy Bomber, and I was like, here, take a ton of damage. Here, I'll surprise strike with it. Take what it was, 8 indirect and 8 to your base, and then like their whole board is gone or their base is dead. So that was as I go back to the drawing board, I actually want to stick with Poe and see if that 2-drop thing works. And if I'm going away from all the 1-drops, then I don't have to be in yellow. So now I'm kind of, do I want to be green? Do I want to be blue? And I'm playing around with it, but I'm focused on keeping the Tactical Heavy Bomber in there because I like him.
Okay, like it.
Those are the decks I've been playing.
The other thing that I've been working on, and I've been planning on this one for a while because I love the character and I'm determined to make him work, is Wedge. Wedge Green is something that I've been messing around. Wedge Red, right? Wedge Tarkentown is the build that I'm on. I started off with Thermal Oscillator. I wasn't as happy with those results. Definitely, I've been enjoying Tarkentown more out of Wedge, being able to clear problematic units out of the way. I was having some decent games, some decent lines against Ian. I was watching the VOD of our games for the night, Ian. I'm looking at my hand and I'm looking at what I'm doing. I'm like, wow, I screwed that turn up. Like, so it's a deck that I really enjoy. I think there's a lot of work. I've got a lot of work to do to figure out the right ways to attack certain matchups. But I really, really like that deck as well. Just partly because I love Wedge as a character, and I'm determined to make that work somehow. Damn it, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Twin Suns. Denver has been all my big focus, but after I get back from Denver later into April, I'm gonna try and have some folks over. We're gonna get some Twin Suns on the channel. I know Ian's excited about this. I did borrow the mat from Anthony when he came over on Sunday. I threw it on the table. It fits, no problem, which means I'll be able to get the camera over it. We'll figure all that out. Ian, what do you want to cook for Twin Suns? Like if you had to build a Twin Suns deck today, what would you play?
I've been playing the same Twin Suns since the beginning. Inquisitor, Krennic.
Okay.
Now I've partnered it with Lake Country.
Okay.
And I haven't had a chance to play. I thought I was going to get a game in on Tuesday, but only Anthony, of all people, brought a Twin Suns deck.
Womp
womp. Yeah. I don't know how it's going to play yet, but I mean, I had it 80 cards previously in 2 colors because I was ready for this set. So I really only added about 4 or 5 cards and I was ready to roll. So I'm ready to rock on Twin Suns. I'm bringing it to Denver in case somebody else there wants to play Twin Suns.
Nice. I would. You know what? I should probably try and throw a deck together and fit it in the suitcase if I can. But yeah, I'll be curious to see about. Now, let me ask you a question a different way. If you've already got that one built, let's assume for a minute you had to build one from scratch today. Is there anything else out there that interests you for Twin Suns that you just haven't tried yet?
I have an idea for Ahsoka. I wanted to combo Ahsoka with Rey and play a lot of small units to get coordinate out there on the board. And was an idea that I had, and have Rey buff him up a little bit.
Okay. Like
that's an idea that I'm slowly building. Not there yet, but I'm slowly building that deck.
Okay, interesting. Trey, what about you? What have you got in the hangar for Twin Suns, or that you either built or would like to build soon?
I haven't built one yet. I was one of the people that did not bring a Twin Suns deck this last year.
Okay.
So I am very hung up on double blue. When it comes to Twin Suns, I like running the double blue cards. So I like, there's the Sentinel and the heals and the pump that you get with Ray, like those are all, or the giant sentinel that you get with like a Chewbacca. Those are really powerful, and I win a lot of games with my with double blue and like a green base, and I build the 80 cards out of that. So the one that I'm really looking at here, probably my first stab at this is probably going to be the new Lando and Chewbacca, just so that I can just completely turtle up and make it a dumb idea for somebody to attack me. Okay. I'm going to play dudes on either side. They're always going to get shields. I'm going to heal forever for days. I'm going to play vigilance. I'm going to have millions of sentinel cards, and nobody's ever going to want to attack me, because if they do, they're going to lose. So that's the last time that we played. It was I was double blue and green, and I kind of want to be double blue and green again because I really like those.
Okay. The one that I've drawn up that I need to build, and this is what I'll probably throw in the suitcase because it's not very difficult to build, is like Ian, I'm a bit of an unrepentant Imperial. So for me, what I sketched up, the first one, actually, I went into SWDB and I could build a Twin Suns deck in here, so I threw one together. It's Tarkin Iden. Tarkin Iden with red. So it's it's just like a whole bunch, like one of every
all good Imperial.
Yeah, exactly. One of every good Imperial card I could think of, and I think I curved it out around 6 or 7. I might have to look at. I'll probably play a couple games in it, decide if I want to put anything more expensive than that in it. But I was like, this seems like it's okay. So I'll probably throw this together and chuck it in the suitcase. I wouldn't mind getting in a game of Twin Suns just for the hell of it, sometime over the weekend or after I get back or whatever. So definitely looking forward to that. Now, outside of the game, guys, this is one of the things that Trey likes to talk about. Like we spend an hour talking about Unlimited. But we've all got other hobbies and other things we're doing. So talk about something that you're enjoying that's not Unlimited, another hobby, another, a book, a movie, a podcast, something you're dealing with, you're enjoying outside of Unlimited, Ian, that's a thing in your life right now.
Right now I'm reading the Driss Jordan books.
Oh.
The old D&D books.
Okay.
I'm on
way
book.
Back.
Yeah, way back. I'm on book 7. I just bought the next 4 books at half price for like $3.50 a pop. What a great deal.
Okay.
So that's, besides work, Star Wars Unlimited, taking care of my house. That's the 4th thing I have time for, I guess.
Okay, Trey, what about you? What do you got? What else you got going on in your life? You stay busy.
So I do stay busy. I threw this in our show doc today. I talked about it last time.
You did.
I don't remember if I talked about it on the podcast, but last time I've done a couple of podcasts for other games in the past, and we always end with this type of thing, because it's a fun way to do 2 recommendations. And I made sure that it was included in this show doc so that I could talk about Dungeon Crawler Carl. Carl, I read voraciously. I read 50 books a year. I've been that way since I was like in the 2nd grade. I don't read self-help, or I don't read history. I mean, I like history, but I will like watch some stuff with war stories. But I read like 300-page novels to 900-page novels. I like fantasy. I like science fiction. Probably science fiction a little more than fantasy. But like I just constantly taking in words. I have favorite authors, favorite series. I can have whole discussions about everything. Sometime over in the fall, I was on Reddit, because I do that from time to time, and I got an ad that said this book 7 in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series was coming out. And I was like, I have a friend of mine that had read them before and mentioned them to me. And I had whatever, okay. And I'm just plowing on with what I was going to read. And it never really made it into my reading list. But for some reason, the ad for book 7 in Dungeon Crawler Carl was like, all right, I'm out of stuff. I'm looking for something. I'll go grab book 1 of Dungeon Crawler Carl. So I'm trying to do this without spoiling too much, just to set up this scene for you. It is masterfully written. It is really well done. I read with my eyes. I don't read with my ears, but I am told that the audiobooks are amazing, and the guy that reads them does incredible voices for everything. It is a lit RPG book, is the genre of book. And if you're unfamiliar with what lit RPG is, imagine you wake up one day, and you're just like a person in our world, and you wake up one day, and all of a sudden you are in like World of Warcraft. Like you have an overlay on your vision that has a little mini map, and then you see that you have a 16 strength or a 7 charisma or whatever it is. Like, you can see all this stuff, and you are in an RPG game in real life. And so it's a whole genre. People end up in there's all sort of contrived ways. Oh, I fell asleep, or I got hit by a car and I woke up and now I'm in some other world, and I'm the only one who gets these powers of having RPG like stats. So this one starts in Seattle in the Northwest, and it's this guy he's in his apartment, he's chilling, it's late at night, and his girlfriend is out of town. He's just broken up with her. She's in Bermuda with the guy that she was cheating on him with. She has her show cat. It's like she shows this amazing award-winning grand champion cat. And so it's this Carl is hanging out in his apartment. It's freezing cold. There's an ice storm. It's terrible weather. And he opens the door or the window, and he's sitting there smoking a cigarette. And the cat runs outside, and he gets very upset about it. And he throws on a jacket. He's in his boxers, no shoes on, runs outside to go get this cat. He scoops the cat up. That's when the aliens arrive. But the aliens' arrival is what happens with the aliens arrive is the announcement that the aliens arrive is that every single structure or thing with a roof, whether it's a car or a building or a bus stop, is immediately sucked into the ground. And everybody who's inside one of these structures is killed instantly. And then a voice comes over the world and says, if you're outside, if you're still alive, you have an opportunity to go into the dungeon. And then all of a sudden, these stairwells open up all over the place. And Carl and this cat, who goes by the name Donut, like, okay. So they walk down into the dungeon, and then they're like in a D&D RPG game, and they have to like punch things, and they get achievements. You see steps on, he like kicks a goblin in the head, and the achievement, you killed something with your foot, and it made the computer game happy. And so the last little bit of spoiler, because it sets up the whole thing, that it happens very early in the bit of the book, is they eventually get to where they have a game guide. And so there's an NPC in the game. They walk into this room, and there's an NPC who's there to show them the ropes of the game. And then all of a sudden he gets a thing called a pet biscuit. He's like, oh, well, feed this to your cat. It can make your cat stronger. And the cat, meow, grand champion cat. The cat eats the pet biscuit and becomes sentient. And so now the cat, they call them crawlers. The people in this dungeon, they call them crawlers. So now going forward through all of these books, as they go deeper and deeper into the dungeon, and every level of the dungeon is different. And so one of them is like Magic the Gathering cards. They play Magic the Gathering cards. Some of them are just straight up like D&D dungeons. But they go through. It is Carl, who is still wearing his jacket and his boxers and no shoes. And because the game thinks it's funny, it starts giving him stuff like upgraded boxers, or it gives him a ring so that he can smush things with his feet better, but he can't wear shoes to do it. So he goes through this entire dungeon, floor after floor, with no pants on, just boxers with hearts on them, and barefoot, because his feet keep getting more and more powerful. Oh, it's hysterical.
Somebody's having way too much fun writing this stuff.
Oh, it's amazing. And then I learned things like, so they get loot boxes, because you get loot boxes, and every once in a while the book, you'll be reading the book, and it'll be like, oh, you both got a fan. Oh, I left out one part of this. This is all being broadcast throughout the universe as a reality TV show. And it sounds ludicrous, and it is. It's ludicrous and it's hilarious, but it's in the same way that you watch. I'm trying to think of some of the TV shows that I've watched where you watch them. Scrubs is my favorite example of this, where you watch them and you've gut busting laughs, but then you get to the part where one of the brother of one of the main characters dies, and it's just like heart wrenching. And so it jumps back and forth, and it makes you laugh. And then also it like really tugs at your heartstrings, and the author is very good at doing that. And so some of the stuff I'm telling you is ridiculous, but then there are the parts where, because people really die in the dungeon, like the people running this dungeon don't care. They're there to make you die in entertaining ways, to entertain people in this show. And so it's very funny, but it also tugs at your heartstrings. Lord. The part that I was talking about. So you get loot boxes, and then every once in a while they'll be, oh, you get a fan loot box. And okay. And then they have to go find a safe room to open their loot boxes. Well, what I found out after I had read these books all the way through once is that the author, Matt Dinneman, has a Patreon, and in his Patreon, if you're a member of his Patreon, well, Yeah, but he will then, if you're a member of his patrons, you get to vote on what goes in these fan boxes. He'll give you a list of stuff. So then what you voted for as a fan of this series and now makes it into the book.
That's awesome.
Is in the next book. And so
cool.
I cannot recommend it highly enough. I devoured them all the way through book 7. I gave my brother, and then I moved on and I read something else. And then I gave my brother the first book for Christmas, and then he read it, and his mind was blown. He was hooked, and he told me like, "Oh, this happened in the book," and I went, "Crap, that was awesome! I have to read that again." So now I've now read them through a second time, and I started book 7 today. So like since September, I've read 13 of these 7 book series. So if you like books, whether you listen to them or you read them, Dungeon Crawler Carl, put that on your list.
Okay. I think for me, probably one of the things I've really been enjoying lately, and I sort of hate to, send people to another podcast, but you guys probably know one of the things that I've just kind of really gotten me started doing content creation all those years ago is World of Warships. I have long been a huge enjoyer of naval history, particularly World War II naval history. And there's a group of guys that for about the last 3 years have been making a podcast called The Unauthorized History of the Pacific War. You're
Fat Electrician.
No, it's not. Well, you introduced me. You showed me Fat Electrician, but this is.
Sorry, I thought that's where you were going with this. You said he's an.
No, this is the name of the podcast is The Unauthorized History of the Pacific War, and it's a podcast done by a guy named John Parshall. Well, John Parshall's like a regular visitor, and I first ran across him about 20 years ago because he and I believe his co-author's name was Tom Tully. They wrote a book called Shattered Sword, which was about the Battle of Midway, which has fascinated me since I was a child. And I devoured that book. And so he's a regular guest on this podcast. But the two main casters are a gentleman who works for one of the Mississippi history museums, who worked at the World War II Museum in New Orleans for a very, very long time, and a retired Navy submarine captain. I think he retired probably about 20 years ago now. And so the three of them frequently collaborate on whatever the topic is that they're going through. Like they're wrapping up their 4th season about now. For example, the last several weeks were all about. One was about the ethical / moral case for the atomic bombings in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Then it was an episode about the actual missions, the bombing missions themselves, and all the technical details and how they worked and so on and so forth. And then the most recent episode that they just released was about, okay, now you're after the bombings the next week inside of Japan. Basically, they're talking about how, they don't normally do political podcasts, but that's basically what this was. Like all the political machinations and discussions and what led up to the Japanese surrender and the fact that they almost didn't surrender. Just really, really fun. And then now I'm going back and listening to old back episodes, right? I started listening to stuff about the Battle of Midway today, and they had other stuff, American submarine operations, which is a particularly favorite topic of mine in World War II Pacific. So yeah, I've really been enjoying that. Like it's made the car rides in and out of work. I don't care about the traffic. I just sit there and I'm just reveling in it the whole way. I love it.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of what I've been enjoying lately. Definitely one of the things when I don't have my head in the Stream Deck downstairs in the studio getting fixed up for Denver this coming weekend, I'm probably listening to that. All right, guys. Well, listen, we've hit our hour and change. Anything else we want to cover? Or should we call it?
No, you guys are going to be talking a lot. Come Saturday. Save your voices, man. Let's get out of here.
I need to make sure I bring the Ricola with me to make sure that I've got some throat lozenges. So for sure. All right, guys. Well, listen, thanks for being here. And you guys, thanks for tuning in. I'll do the thing that Trey did last time. If you enjoyed the podcast, throw us a like or a follow, throw us a rating on whatever format you listen to us in.
A good rating.
Please a good rating, presuming you enjoyed it if you got this far in the show. And if you've got things you want to hear us talk about, suggestions for future topics, whatever, leave those in a comment or whatever. I'm probably going to end up having to subscribe to Buzzsprout here, so we should have an actual web page soon, and that'll give us a fan mail link. I'll put all of that into the show notes, presuming that I have them, or in the YouTube comments, YouTube video description. I'll try and get all that done soon. So anyway, awesome. All right, guys.
One day,
thanks. Go.
One day we will sort all this out, and we will act like a professional, do a good job podcast, and it's not just some dudes sitting
by
around
the
talking.
time we've done
Speak
this
for yourself, sir.
By the time we've done this 4 or 5 times, we might actually look like we know what we're doing. So don't get too ahead of yourself. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening, guys, and we will catch everybody next time. Peace.